Welcome to Like Mother, Like Murder. I am Rachel.
And I'm Heather.
We bring you the good,
The badass,
and the crime.
This is Like Mother, Like Murder.
Hello and welcome back to Like Mother, Like Murder, your favorite true crime momcast. I am Rachel.
And I am Heather. And each week we bring you all things mom, from missing moms to murdered moms, moms who murder, survivors, and more.
Yes. So a few housekeeping things before we get into today's episode. First and foremost, huge shout out to the listeners, the amazing listeners. We freaking adore you guys. And we got a new review, Heather. We did. And I need to read it to you, to everyone, because it made my heart so happy.
Love it.
And it's just, anytime I get one, I'm like, oh my God, my heart. So I hate that I can't see the entire title thing. You probably could if you went into the Apple thing, but I'm not there. But it says, new mother that loves the like mother, like murder. I'm assuming.
Okay.
It just says, loves the like M ... So I just, put two and two together. 5-star, by the way. We appreciate a 5-star.
Oh, thank you.
I literally just began listening. Wow. I am impressed, and from start to finish, I am engaged in the episodes. I look forward to relaxing after my time with my husband and sons after a long workday, unwinding and listening to this podcast. Just love Rachel and Heather's personalities. Newest fan here. I'm spreading them word to my friends and anyone who cares to listen to me about listening to Like Mother, Like Murder.
Stop it! That's the sweetest thing I've ever freaking heard.
Yes, that was the sweetest.
My God. What is the screen name?
Vincent Boy 27.
Vincent Boy 27.
Yeah.
Thank ya.
I love it. It made my heart so happy.
Seriously, so this is what's crazy. We are coming up on
3
years. 3 years we're coming up on. And still to this day, it will never get old. Like that. That is and the biggest compliment too is saying that oh yeah, this is how I unwind, because that's what I do with my favorite podcast, right? Is this is how I just kind of let my mind go after being a mom all day and just having to center. I just kind of listen to these podcasts, let my mind just let go of everything that it's been holding in all day. And the fact, share with all your friends. Hail to the yeah.
Right.
Hail to the yeah.
Yeah, you want to come unwind. It's the same for me too, where I'm just you know what? I'm in the mood for my besties right now.
Yes.
And then I'll turn on a podcast that I'm obsessed with. So I am right there with her. I love it. Amazing.
This is so great.
And
I love it so much.
Yeah. It's the best because not only does it make our freaking hearts the happiest ever, but we say it all the time. It helps us grow. So thank you.
Yeah.
That
Word
is the
of
best.
mouth
Thank you,
is
Billion.
the best way too. I love it. Thank you.
Heck yeah. Yeah.
Sweetest.
Yeah. Another person that I wanted to shout out and say something about right now, because she is literally the best, most supportive, most amazing human, Heather, so prissy girl, on Spotify. She has been hitting up that comment section.
Yes, girl.
Every week she says something, and it just means so much. I love when I get the little notification pop up on my phone, someone commented on. I'm like, okay, but I can't wait to see what it is. And it's her. And I'm I love her so much. So,
thanks,
Heather, we love you.
We love you.
We freaking love you. All right, let's get into the question of the week.
Okay, let's do that.
Heather, this one is going to be pulling at your brain, I swear. So this one comes from David, the host and creator of Down the Rabbit Hole, and one of the hosts of Weird Java in the Morning that we do our missing persons segment on. Also, one of the hosts of One Nothing podcast. The question is, can humanity ever evolve to a point where these cases stop happening?
Oh. Do you want my real answer?
Yeah.
Look,
yeah, I do actually.
Look, I would love to be an optimist. I really would. I think that, I probably wouldn't have depression. My anxiety would also be a lot less if I could really try to, you know, think optimistically. But that is not the hand I was dealt when it comes to how my brain works. And I am a realist, if not towards the side of a straight up pessimist. And the truth is, I think our society will most likely implode before we get to a complete utopia where you wouldn't have to worry about cases like this. Yeah. I think more likely scenario is a meteor strikes the earth and we all but yes, the opposite. I think that human nature is so shitty sometimes, not all the time. There are some fabulous humans. We talk about them when we talk about some of the amazing mothers that are survivors or, you know, fought for their children to survive while they had to deal with a bunch of shit. And, you know, but the truth is there are some just shitty humans, as is evident by what we cover every week. But damn, David, way to bring
that was
real, like, whoa.
That's how his brain works, and it's awesome. Right?
What about you? Yeah. What's your thought?
Yeah, realist here. Mm-hmm. I do feel like I don't see things getting better. Mm-hmm. I feel like I wish that, if anything, I wish that we lived in a world where more good was focused on and more good was displayed and put out there for the world, right? Because I feel like there is so much good.
Sure.
And there is so many good people.
Sure.
And just like how it's so easy to talk down on yourself or say negative things or say bad things, that's what's being shown and that's what's being fed. And so it just continues and it kind of circles. And so for me, I feel like there needs to be a bigger effort in putting that good out there for people to see and be exposed to, and maybe that would make a difference.
I love that.
I don't know.
I think, you know what it makes me think of, and I don't want to take too much time. I know we want to get into it, but what you said really made me think of some of the amazing guests that we've had on our show who have been through hell and who are not, like, are trying to put that good back out into the world, even though the literal worst of the world has affected their life. And they have said, I'm going to turn around and put good back out. And I think we have some amazing women who have come on and have honored us by sharing their stories on our show. And that shows that, yeah, I think you're right. We need to make sure that that good is being put out there too. And I think that, again, these women, these powerful, strong-ass moms are proof of that right. Good needs to come out, and that a lot can come from that. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yep. Agreed. Talking about a amazing, strong, beautiful mom, this is kind of like an honorable mention question that I need to add in here because Holly from Crime with Holly, she also wrote in and said dogs or cats. So I feel like ready. 3, 2, 1, dogs.
Yeah. I think it's very clear by the way that our houses are right now. But to be fair, Rachel, if you weren't like deathly allergic, you definitely have at least 1, if not 5 cats, because the way you are with animals is insane.
So if I had property, I would even have cats outside. Yeah. Like I had cats in Juniper Hills, but right. I'm so allergic.
I know.
It's not a me thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can't do it.
But to be fair, we, knock on wood, my daughter has been asking for a dog. And I've wanted a dog for a very long time. but I didn't want to be actively changing diapers and potty training a little human and a little puppy. So I told my 5-year-old, my older one, I said, when your younger sister's fully potty trained and out of pull-ups, we'll get a dog. And so she asks like at least once a week, is she potty trained yet? I'm like, no. Do you see pull-ups in his house? She is not potty trained.
Yeah, that's when you say, I'm going to need you to go over there and step up your helping big sister game.
And I've told her, I said, because she talks about this, her friend that she has at school. Oh, so-and-so has a dog. I'm like, yeah. And you know what? So-and-so has to go pick up the dog's poop, has to take that dog for walks, has to feed that dog, has to make sure that dog has water, has to play with that dog, has to make sure dogs aren't just like, dogs are not like our cat who will just hang out and comes in and gets some pets every once in a while and then goes on his merry way.
Nope. Absolutely not.
Yeah. Different.
Nope.
Different animal.
Crazy.
Good question, Holly. I liked it.
That is it. I know. That's so funny.
That's so cute.
So cute. All right. You ready to get into it?
Let's get into this.
Let's do it. So, this month is Child Abuse Prevention Month. So before we get into this week's episode, I want to provide some information, some numbers on child abuse across the U.S. 58,000 children are court-ordered into the care of an abusing parent each and every year. 989 children have been murdered by a divorcing or separating parent. Every 6 days in the U.S., a child is killed amid a custody dispute or family court lapse. Abusive fathers are more than 2 times as likely to seek sole physical custody as nonviolent fathers, and they are successful about 70% of the time. These numbers tell us that family court reform needs to be a priority and that changes need to be made in the courts for our children. Not all family court professionals are trained to identify coercive control in domestic abuse, and therefore, too many times, these extremely dire situations could have been avoided and lives could have been saved if only those who were put into the position to protect had the proper training and were held accountable in their position. We have covered some extremely heartbreaking and heavy cases recently, talking with 2 moms who lost their children to filicide, Brandy Maury Poles and Hope Mader. And there has come a time when enough is enough, when those who are sworn in to protect are given the training and the tools needed to follow through with the protection, as well as a team that is equally as knowledgeable and capable to make differences in these numbers for these families and ultimately for these children. Today, it's not as heavy in one sense because luckily the individual we will be discussing today, he did survive, but only after years and years of abuse. And so I wanted to bring these numbers and talk about it a little because this conversation has to continue. Not only to, we don't only need to get louder, but changes need to be made that are going to make differences in these cases and in the lives of those who have suffered. That's our hope in sharing these conversations. That's our hope to raise awareness and then hopefully make a difference. Are you okay?
No, I have... I mean, it's crazy how I feel like those numbers are shocking, but at the same time, not. I don't know if that makes sense, how it's like, yes, the sheer volume of the amount of times those kind of things happen. I mean, the number shouldn't even be 1, right? But at the same time, especially since we've started doing this podcast, and especially since we've started working with you, like you said, with moms like Brandy and Hope, it is very real. It is very real. And like you said, our point isn't to place oh, this blame you and blame me. It's like the entire system is fucked up. The fact that there's people in whose job it is to protect the family dynamic and mainly protect the children, right, aren't even trained on identifying the things that are harmful to a child. What the fuck? That's ridiculous. And it's a systematic issue that needs to be understood, because what we've seen, unfortunately, even in just if you take the 2 cases that we personally have talked to in situations like this, it wasn't just one point in time where you decide, oh, that could have been the make or break. That could have been a life-changing, life-saving moment. It was 1, 2, 3. This judge, this cop, so many moments where if one thing could have been the difference. So it is systematic and heartbreaking that it is so heavy set into the system, that we're not just talking about a single thing that we can flip a switch and make it better. It needs to be a whole
absolutely
overhaul.
And I mean, that takes me back to the question of the week from what David had said, because it's one of those things where I want to, with my whole heart, believe that changes can be made, but they have to be made
right
with everyone, with everything. And we've got to get there, especially if there's anything pertaining to a child. Changes need to be made. So
agree. Yeah. I know.
February 17th of this year, 2025, a house fire broke out in Waterbury, Connecticut. Emergency responders arrived to the house to find Kimberly Sullivan, a 56-year-old woman who was able to escape unharmed, as well as a 32-year-old man who did suffer from smoke inhalation and burns, and he was taken to the hospital immediately. The fire, though, was not accidental. This fire was started intentionally by the man in his room, and he told law enforcement it was because he wanted his freedom after years of captivity, abuse, and starvation. This is an ongoing investigation, and it is an open case as of right now. Everything we are discussing is alleged, and individuals are innocent until proven guilty in court. And the discussion is based off of the sources I have listed in the show notes, as well as my opinion and mine only. And Heather's, because she's here, and we know that will be coming.
Yes.
We're going to start with the fact that Kimberly Sullivan was arrested on March 12th and held on a $300,000 bond on crimes against her stepson. She is accused of first-degree assault, second-degree kidnapping, first-degree unlawful restraint, first-degree reckless endangerment, and cruelty to a person. There is video footage of when the firefighters carry this 32-year-old emaciated man out of this burning home at only 68 pounds. Here's some of the details that we do know. Kimberly Sullivan married a man named Craig Sullivan years ago. Craig had already had a son with a previous relationship, and she gave up custody of this child when he was very young. And so now Kimberly is a part of this family. The family did expand. They had 2 daughters together as well. When the son was around 11 years old, he was taken from the public's eye, no longer attending school or being a part of society. 20 years ago. And now, after this fire that he allegedly started to obtain his freedom, they are deep into a 20-year investigation on the abuse that he endured over the last 2 decades.
Oh my God.
20 years, he says he was held captive inside that home on Waterbury, or in Waterbury. But the only report, so there's so much coming out, and that's one of the things that I do mention at the end, but I'll mention it here. This is one of the cases that we will be following. We will be bringing updates. We will be talking about this more because more and more is coming out. There's stuff happening right now. There was just a trial. You know, she says not guilty. We'll get into that. But as things kind of like come up and unravel, it still is one of those things that just blows my mind because over 20 years, when I read a report, when I'm going through and I read that only one report was made ever over those 20 years, and that goes back to 2005, 20 years ago when this first happened, and it's because, like, it's not only 20 years ago, 2005, when this report was made, but it kind of like ties into why it happened. So in an article I found that provided the timeline information, it's in the show notes, the boy was in school. So when he was in school, there was a report made to DCFS about the child's well-being and that he was stealing food from classmates and digging through trash cans for food. And then, an investigation did happen. Back when it happened, the reporting agent said that the family seemed fine. The child seemed fine. The home was clean and safe and all was well. And so that could be perfectly true. That could be perfectly fine. You go in there, you see this thing, you're there for 5 minutes. People can put on a show. I don't know. I was not there. But 2 visits to this home ended with nothing more, and it was an open shut case on their end. In that same article, it mentions that then the Sullivan family decided to open a lawsuit against the school. And I don't know what came of that, but they were suing the school for harassment. And then it ultimately led to the son being taken out of the school and allegedly never returning and then being on a house arrest or imprisonment of some sort within the family's home.
What is so crazy to me about this is 20 years ago was 2005. Other than the fact that those numbers seem crazy to me. 2005, like, kids are required to go to school. Like, it is a law that kids, I don't remember what age it is that you can quote unquote legally drop out, but like truancy officers were a thing back in 2005.
Yeah,
I mean,
it said that he was homeschooled. So therefore, it's like
that is exactly like that would be a major red flag to me, and that was exactly my next point. Is they probably said some shit like, "Oh, well, we're pulling him out of the school because the school harassed us, so we're gonna homeschool him."
Right.
Major red flag right there. And now it's really crappy because now the school, who has mandated reporters, can no longer intervene on the child's behalf and file a report. And this is what's so crazy is that now it was an open and shut case, quote unquote, open and shut case. But now at this point, you've completely lessened the chance that there's ever going to be another report or case. But it should immediately raise a red flag that like and I mean, I don't know if there was like a standard way that the DCFS would have found out about it, but it's like we made 2 reports and then the family pulled him out of school. To me, in my head, I'm thinking, problem. Like, especially because it's not that they pulled him out and put him in another school. They quote unquote homeschooled him. Like that would immediately, and I feel like that's the other thing too, is like there's a lot of people who homeschool their children. They also have to meet like accreditation processes. Like what the fuck? Like that should all be filed somewhere.
Right. And who knows if all of that kind of stuff will come out at some point, because it's not something that I have seen so far. But what I will say is I highly doubt that stuff will come out, because as I get into this, you'll see that even family members, people, this child turned man went off the radar completely, to the point where even family was pushed away and hadn't seen him and was very concerned and curious as to what was happening. Over the years, this couple, they struggled in life. They struggled financially. They both had separately filed for bankruptcy at certain points in their life. They took out a second mortgage on their home. And so maybe things were tough at certain points in their life. And guess what? They're tough for a lot of people out there. You don't go doing some short of shit like this, okay? The father, Craig, he ended up passing away in January of last year, January 2024. And then, as you guys know, just over a year later, the fire was set in the room. But it wasn't just the year after his dad passed that he endured this abuse and this pain, right? This was a lifetime of awful and horrible things, according to this now 32-year-old man. In a statement he made to an investigator, he said that in addition to both his father and stepmother, others in his family knew of the captivity and the abuse, including his two half-sisters and his grandmother, who was now deceased. He said that although none of them were the ones who were actually confining him or abusing him, that they were very well aware of the mistreatment that was taking place.
How do you stand by? How do you stand? I mean, even if this person was a stranger, but you're there and you see this happening, and what the fuck, man?
Yeah, it takes a real piece of shit to sit silently and see something like this happening and just turn your head the other way. Other family members caught on and they knew something was up as well, right? So that resulted in the Sullivan family pushing these family members away. Like, when we talk about red flags, how do these not just continue to add up? I mean, they have a freaking field of red flags at this point, and we're only in the beginning. So Craig Sullivan, his own brother, said that he hadn't seen his nephew since 2004 or 2005. And that although they continued to try to reach out, so him and his wife had tried to reach out, tried to communicate, that all completely stopped. In an article that I read, it said that a decade ago, 10 years ago, he actually consulted with a private investigator who he had searched for death records of his nephew because he thought the worst had happened. But there were no death records, and then nothing came from it. Oh, man. So, I mean, can I just call this episode Red Flags? Because
I know, right?
And then for him to be doing that, how you said, how are the schools not even homeschool? Like, people need to be held accountable. There's, ways that people can see if things are actually happening. My mind is blown. After the fire took place and the man was taken to the hospital, this uncle, Craig's brother, went to the hospital to see him, and that the uncle said he was completely devastated by the sight. He was in shock at what he saw from his nephew, like what he looked like.
Yeah.
I mentioned it earlier, 68 pounds. This man was 5'9". He is 5'9".
Oh my God.
He was 68 pounds when he was taken from that fire. His teeth were decayed. His hair was matted.
Yeah.
All of these things. When the man tells investigators of the things he endured over the years, the list of horrid and disgraceful neglect and abuse is huge. But he also explains that his two half-sisters were allowed to have friends over. They were allowed to leave the house. They were allowed to go hang out with their friends. And he, when their friends would come over, he was ordered to remain silent in his room.
Oh my God. Oh my God. So this is the thing. This is what's so hard about this. He was 12 when, wait, hold on. Yeah, when he was first taken out of school. Probably, like, just doing
like
my math.
11 like or 12.
11, 12 when he was first taken out of school. Now he's being held captive in his home. We know that those two younger sisters, they're younger, but he's 32 now. And so you obviously have to provide a lot of grace to other children in the home who maybe are not the victim of such abuse, because maybe they are scared, which, yeah, I get. But here's my thing now. He is 32. Those girls, his sisters, are adults now. They have, like, they have to be adults now. What was stopping you? You witnessed your own blood being completely tortured. Then you become an adult and you're still like, yeah, cool, that was fine. What?
I don't know. Instantly, it makes me think like and this is stuff that I can't wait to hear more. I can't wait to see what people have to say. But it's like, and I don't want to give people the benefit of the doubt, because if they don't deserve it, they don't deserve it. But first of all, was there some sort of psychological abuse there for them? And then also, did that lead to this guilt that they dealt with and then held on to and made it harder? And then it's like you get into this withdrawal and you don't speak up. And it's not okay. Like, no, whatsoever.
That's the thing, is I can totally see someone growing up in a home like that, even if they were having quote unquote happy lives with friends coming over and whatever, growing up in a home like that. But then, and feeling like, obviously, major feelings about that. But it's like, at the end of the day, you were a witness to something horrible, that it wasn't just like a one-time thing, it happened. This was every damn day. You grew up witnessing something horrible every damn day, and in your own house. And yeah, that's going to fuck you up psychologically, even if it's not happening to you. But at a certain point, I mean, come on. Yeah, I get you were young when, I mean, he's older than you. So, okay, maybe you're younger, but he was 32 when this finally he was able to escape. Ain't no way that you know what I mean? Like
yeah, and they're not living there. They weren't living there anymore. So it's not like
you're also being held to the, like once they moved out of the house, what was, and and clearly it's not like their parents were not in a state where it's like they were relying on their parents for money or something. I mean, it seems like their parents didn't really have much to offer them financially anyway. So what was stopping you at that point? Like, at that point, now, even if, and I, you know, you don't want to blame anyone who's a child who has to go through this, but once they became, and even at 18, 19, you're quote unquote an adult, but we know, like, 18, 19-year-olds make some dumbass decisions. But like, when you're well into your 20s and you're still like, you're completely, like, you should be held accountable. Right. 100% for knowing that this was going on and not saying anything.
I agree. So why him? Why were two children able to live their lives, go to school, have friends, eat food, go amongst their home, in their yard, live their lives, while their half-brother was living a life as excruciatingly awful as he did, right?
Yeah.
Kimberly Sullivan, who is the stepmom, not only stands by her word and says that she's innocent, but she also points the finger at her late husband, the boy's biological dad. Her lawyer said this in court, quote, "He was not locked in the room. She did not restrain him in any way. She provided food. She provided shelter. She is blown away by these allegations," end quote. As well as saying that it was the stepson's father who dictated how the boy would be raised. I'm sorry. And this is going back to what you just said about the sisters and everything. But let me make my opinion very clear right here. If you knowingly and willingly sit in silence beside someone committing horrific acts against another person, especially a child, you are shit.
Yeah.
Plain and simple.
Yeah. And this is what I don't understand. Again, you want to provide people the benefit of the doubt, although... like, I really don't in this case. Maybe she was just as scared of being abused and having to go through the horrific treatment that he went through. But I'm sorry, a whole other year went by and you still did nothing? No. So it makes me think, no, none of that is true. Like, no, you're a bullshitter.
Yeah, definitely like no, and I'll get to the fact that he says that it escalated after his dad passed. And he says some things about his dad as well. So, the photos of this home have been made public, and in the photos, you see, so this is after the house fire, right? And so some of it, you see the burns and stuff, but you see clutter and stuff everywhere. Messes on messes on messes. Not just someone who has a lot of stuff. Just pure clutter and disgust. The home itself, underneath all of the clutter, seems to have a lot of things from broken cabinets, holes, and parts of the walls missing. The staircase looked like you would just fall through it if you walked on it, to be honest. The windows are boarded up. There's locks on the doors and the windows from the inside. And all of these pictures will be in the sources, and I will post every single one of them on our social media. But I'm just trying to explain it in a way that says it's worse than you can imagine. Like, it's worse than when I first heard that it was bad, and then I actually saw them. It's worse than that. Then you go upstairs, and you see where the whole upstairs is burnt and broken, and you see the conditions that this boy turned man was living in. As I mentioned earlier in the episode, the fire on February 17th at the Sullivan household was started intentionally by the man. And he stated it was because he wanted his freedom. Freedom that seems in my research that had been taken from him when he was 11 years old and continued over all of those years. He used hand sanitizer and printer paper and then lit it on fire, knowing that he very well could have died in that room that had been his prison for the last 20 years. It was a chance he was willing to take, a chance that worked, a chance that saved him, and a chance that now has his alleged abuser and, I say alleged abuser, arrested and going through court to be held accountable for all of her charges. So we're going to talk about where some of the things stand today, right now, just a month after, he took that ultimate chance on his freedom. Kimberly Sullivan has claimed her innocence, like I said earlier, as well as pointed the finger, after she was arrested. She said it was him, and that's what she sticks with, that it was him. It was just him who decided, to confine his son to the room at age 11, and that she listened to him, and that was his choice back then, and it just happened all of those years. And okay, again, I can only express my hatred for the stupidity of people who sit silently alongside these horrific crimes and abuse. Okay, there are two sides to the story. She claims he could have walked away if he wanted to. He wasn't locked in the room, And he could have just left if he made that choice, but he never did. That is where she stands. I want to point out that in the pictures that are in the sources and on our social media, there are locks on his door, okay? Locks, and more locks. And the way that they're described, or the way that you see them, is that each lock got a little bit stronger or more kind of like heavy duty as he got older. Seemingly to be able to keep him locked in his room, right? They needed to upgrade the locks according to his strength and his height. And that's what you see on this door, from the basic lock on the door, then the one that you just kind of like slide in, to like more of a deadbolt, to... I'm sorry, what?
That is so scary, because you're literally watching the progression of abuse. Like, you're literally seeing the progression of abuse.
Absolutely. It's disgusting.
Absolutely.
Another thing to add is that some statements that have came out from this man, he expresses that things were always worse when Kimberly was there, more so than his father. Mm-hmm. Not letting his father off the hook, right? But saying that when Kimberly Sullivan would take her two daughters out and they would leave the house and go be with their friends, that his dad would actually let him out and they'd watch TV and he'd have more time out of his room. Where when she was there, he was only allowed out of the room for like a minute at a time to let the dog go to the bathroom in the backyard. And then he had said that after his father passed, the captivity got even worse. She can play the blame game all that she wants, you know, but that wasn't the case.
Yeah.
She got arrested like March 12th. We know that part. I said what she was arrested for. She was held on $300,000 bond that she posted, so she's out, you know. In her most recent trial, she pled not guilty, and now we wait. And there's so much more. I was telling Heather this at the beginning, that there's so much. There's this whole timeline, which I'll tell you guys a couple things from this timeline over the years of other things that have came up, and I didn't add it in like my things that we just discussed more in detail, because this doesn't really have to do with him. And this is, we're talking about him and him getting his freedom and her as the abuser and her needing to be locked up. But there are some other calls that were made to the house that I did want to bring up. And then there's actually one other thing that I did read that blew my damn mind. And I cannot wait to see what happens with that as well, and if there is any connection or anything that happens with it. So a couple of the other things when it comes to authorities or just people that are in a position to help being either called or called to the home or called on the phone and nothing ever happening. So apparently I don't know if she was just someone who was very paranoid, or if she just was someone who bad things followed her because of who she was as a person, but she made a lot of phone calls to report suspicious activity around her home. And so some of it had to do with, apparently, like, her mom, the guy that her mom was dating was like in the backyard once and he wasn't supposed to be there. And so she made a call to the police saying, like, there's someone in my backyard, and it was him. And he was just claiming that he wanted to talk to her about something. So then there was a restraining order put in place.
That's okay.
It's just adds to like the, I don't know. Another call, and these are like throughout the year. So like that one may have been in 2007. This one right here in 2013, she made a call that a male tried to break into her car. And, you know, just that phone call was made, which these things happen. I'm not saying that these didn't happen, but, like, later that day, so it was this same day when there was the phone call for the guy breaking into the car. She called back an hour later saying that they tried to break into the car again, but it was like a different person. So like two different break-ins into the vehicle same day. In 2015, there was a harassment report filed. In 2016, she had a harassment complaint against one of her daughter's ex-boyfriends. And it just keeps going. There's so much more. And then there's other stuff from like car accidents to claiming like medical stuff, even though she said that she wasn't her and she let it go. And there's just a history with her is the point I'm trying to make.
Yeah.
Which we all have our history.
Yeah.
But we all don't hold someone captive in our fucking house for 20 years. So that is where the difference comes in. Now, I have to say allegedly 500,000 times before I go into this next thing. While researching this and looking into Kimberly Sullivan, I read that in 1986, so there was a murder and she's tied into it because she was one of the last people, actually the last person to be with this person before she was murdered.
Oh,
God. She, I guess, her position back then was that she had just left the girl there and then she had left and then the girl was murdered. But Kimberly had her pocketbook, had her stuff with her, like in the car, like had her belongings and just left her there. So she was never, I don't even think she was named a suspect at this time. I don't know, but because they did arrest and charge someone. If I'm correct with it. Like I said, this is so hard because it's like, how many things does this girl have on her?
Right.
And it freaking blows my mind. I don't know. So that, you guys can look into that on your own more. Who knows if more of it will come out. But it did blow my mind to see that. And it was a friend. Like, they were supposedly out together, her friend, and she just straight up left her out there with a different guy. And it wasn't even that guy that she left her with that murdered her.
Not cool.
So
not cool. You don't do that to your friends. But
you don't do that to your friend.
About people. She's a psychopath.
No. So exactly. I said it before, I'll say it again, right? She pled not guilty. Now we wait. We'll be bringing the updates. We will be following this as much as I possibly can. Here's what I have to say, though. The road to recovery for this man will be quite the journey.
Yeah.
And I just hope that he's given anything and everything that he needs to see the other side of what life has to offer after such an insanely brutal, horrific, and abusive upbringing. So,
yeah. I mean,
hopefully.
Clearly this man is a fucking fighter.
Yeah.
Because anyone who has endured even a fraction of what he had to live through as a child and then as an adult, I mean, they'd be well within their, it would be completely understandable if someone was just like, fuck it, you know. But this man was, first of all, how fucking smart to use hand sanitizer and a paper, and like, that's really fucking smart. And
really quick, it's crazy too, because in something else I read, and again, I don't know 100%, so I'm gonna say allegedly because I don't know, but I feel like I read it. New. Yeah, but something that I read was that he had the lighter for a year and was like plotting this and planning this, right? Because he found the lighter after his dad passed, and he got one of his coats. The lighter was in his dad's coat pocket. And that's the only reason he had it, because he would have never like had something like that up there with him. And so he held on to that, and there was always this like plan of like, what am I gonna do?
Yeah.
And until he figured it out.
Because the scariest thing is what happens if I try to plan this and it doesn't work and I get caught.
Yeah.
Like,
right.
The consequences of that, you know?
Yeah, there could be no failed attempts. It had to be...
Yeah. So,
it had to be big.
So that's what's so crazy, that he, you know, he's clearly a fighter. Clearly, you know, it's going to be a long road, though. I mean, this is something you could spend a whole lifetime and it's never going to make it okay, you know? But I hope for his sake that we see justice, and not just for his sake, but like we talked about, there are going to be there right now, I mean, just statistically speaking, there are other people in his exact situation, unfortunately. And hopefully what comes of this is not only justice for him personally in this case, but that there is an understanding that this is an issue, and there was no way that that living in the society we live in today, that this should have been allowed to happen. And I hope that is the bigger thing too, that people take away, is that this was not okay on a societal level, and that needs to fucking change.
Yeah.
That's insane. Rachel, that's so crazy. I did not know you were covering this case.
Right.
But as soon as you said that, I got chills, because I saw the body cam video of when they were rescuing him, and it was so confusing, because you're reading, like, I was reading the, you know, the caption or whatever, and like the comment, and I was like, what the fuck? I was like, what is this? And I was so confused, because I'm hearing the officer going, I don't want her to fucking leave. I don't want her to fucking leave. Because he was trying to, and this is how crazy it is. I don't think it took that guy very long to realize what the fuck happened.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it was the cop or if it was the fireman or who it was, but whoever that person was realized real fucking quick that she's a fucking psychopath, and he doesn't want her going anywhere, because she needs to be held accountable.
I'm sure that as soon as they saw a guy saying him,
like, yeah, exactly. And that's why I'm like, that's so like, that just goes to show you how bad that situation is.
Right.
Like, immediately. And so I just, like, I remember that, and I remember, that is absolutely crazy, that I didn't know you were covering that case, but I immediately had like images of that video I saw. Because it was so chaotic, and you're just like, one thing after another, you're like, wait, what? There's a fire, and then it's what? Don't let her leave. It was, oh my gosh. But shout out to those first responders who, I mean, you're dealing with enough as a first responder, right? Like, there's enough trauma in a lifetime to be being a first responder in a situation like that, and then to add on this just absolutely horrific thing. That's just, wow.
I hope that it just continues to like escalate to the point where everyone is held accountable in all directions. I know that the judge, like, in one of the statements that he made was like, in his 33 years of being a judge, this is the worst like mistreatment that he's ever seen. It's just, it's devastating to know that we live amongst people like this. And
God, this is really making me think about David's question.
I know, right?
That's crazy how that tied in
so
well to the overall. I mean, but this is exactly why I said, because there are just shit fucking people out there, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really do. I hope for the best for this man, and I really hope that, you know, he can find peace. And it's so hard, because you'll never be able to fully recover from something like that. I mean, God, I hope like he can right? But like
Right.
you said, road to recovery for that one is not an easy, it's going to be an uphill battle all the way. And so I just, really hope for a lot of peace
And I hope that there's truth and like validity behind the uncle like hiring a private investigator and stuff, because the fact that he went there and was like there immediately and it hurt him so much to see him like this. I am hoping that this really does show this man, the 32-year-old, that he did have people who cared and they were pushed away, and that even though he was alone and he was secluded and he was not okay for the longest time, that there is the possibility that he can be okay. He can be valued. He can have those people. He can have family. Totally. And that uncle being there hopefully is exactly what he needs.
Yeah, because for all for like literally you live basically, the majority of your life surrounded by people who, not just that they don't care about you, but they go out of their way to treat you like shit.
Right.
I mean, how do you not feel completely abandoned and alone? So, yeah, I really hope that he learns that he is completely worthy and that there are people that, were trying for him, and that, like you said, hopefully there's some validity to that, and that helps his healing journey, because that will go a long way to help someone understand that, like, people care.
Yeah. Another thing that I read was that, so he had a radio like outside of his door. They would like have a radio playing outside of his door, and that's kind of like how he would know like what time it was throughout the day, like what segments were on the radio, and that he became a huge NASCAR fan.
Stop.
And like I forget which sports team that he liked. Cincinnati something, I think it was, but he was a huge NASCAR fan, and like instantly when I was reading that, I was like, if he doesn't get his name on the side of a damn NASCAR, like that's what needs to happen right now. He needs to be up, bro, like a pit man or something, because that would be just awesome.
I love that.
That's we're rooting for him, you guys.
I mean, that's amazing for just, again, it shows like he's literally enduring the worst parts of humanity, and then he's still able to hold on to that like hope, like my the things I have to look forward to, and that's a testament to his, to how
strength.
100%. So
definitely
wow, Rachel,
I know, crazy.
I had
crazy
no idea
stuff.
You were gonna do this one. That's crazy.
It is crazy. It is a huge problem that is happening, that has happened, that needs to not happen. And how do we make it not happen? We've gotta figure something out, because these numbers, people. Like the statistics in the beginning, the numbers are way too high. We've got to find a way to be good people and make good choices and
hold account, and like we as a society need to make sure that the people who are not being good people are held accountable.
Yeah,
because it's not okay to just sit by and allow those things.
Lock them up. Lock them all up.
Get them out of here.
Get them out of here.
They don't deserve to be in a well-meaning society if they're psychopaths. I said what I said.
I said what I said.
Sorry, not sorry.
Sorry, not sorry. All right, we will talk to you guys next week. Actually, I'll talk to you on Thursday for a mini missing moment. And yeah, we've got some other big conversations coming up. We got some collabs with some other we have a daughter who's going to come on and talk about the murder of her mother and the fight that she is doing as of right now. We've got a lot of other big conversations happening. CrimeCon is coming, and the CrimeCon talk right now is real and heavy, and it's out there because Missing in Hushtown has taken over, and season 2 of Missing in Hushtown that we are actively working on right now. We've got interviews for that, for Bethany Markowski's case, and that will be all over CrimeCon as well, and we cannot wait to be there and take part in just advocating for her family and for changes in her case and for fighting for answers and for fighting, you know, just for her in general. So many things coming up. All right.
Love it.
That is it. We will talk to you guys next week. Okay, love you. Bye.
Okay, I love you. Bye.